Hi, it's Barbara. Good evening. And I have no clue what day is today. It's just April something. Oh my God, it's Thursday, April, I don't know, 15, 16, 17. I'll figure it out after. But, well, hello. My goal for tonight is to see if I know how to do a podcast that is, or a reel that's slower than 5 hours. And I even have a little timer here. So this is going to be an experience. My topic for tonight is, and I have notes, maybe that'll help me stay in a shorter period of time. So, I cannot see here. I've been talking a lot about abuse of power, corruption, and how it affects us personally in our individual lives. And so I'm trying to give you tools to protect yourself. My big thing now is protecting ourselves from situations and circumstances and people that not only don't care, but actually go out of their way to harm those of us that are trying to do good. Goodwill, service. Forgive me, I'm in my room. I always lose my voice in here. So my topic for tonight is be your own container. To learn and practice how to be your own container. It's pretty dark down here. Let me see what's going on. My lighting's off. So, yes, be your own container. And before I tell you what I mean about that, let me give you an example. When we go to a therapist, we're going to someone who will hold a space for us so that we can express ourselves in a supposed safe environment where we can be fully authentic, where we can express our truth, be emotionally vulnerable, whether it's crying or being upset or angry, that this therapist's job is to hold a safe space for you to be interacting with yourself with her feedback or his feedback. I'll talk about horrible therapists after this. But I've learned, and what's helped me save myself in this last atrocity that I experienced is if you can be your own container, and what that means is you hold the space for you. You have a place where you can go and speak your truth, express your emotions, no censorship. It's just you holding a container for you. Now, who is more expertise on you? Only you. Only you really can hold a space for yourself. Other people will have judgments. Their personalities will get triggered, and they can't always hold a safe space for you. And where this came up for me is finding myself in toxic communities that were supposedly safe. They advertise safe. Come here and express yourself in a safe and sacred environment. And you get there and you find out if they're really safe. And if it's within a community and you're there for years, over time, you might find out that that safe space that they held for you, the confidentiality that they were supposedly holding for you, shows up in the other classes or at the community itself, where it gets leaked out by the people in charge. So put that aside for a minute. Getting back to my goal here is, what can you do to create a safe space for yourself? You can, just giving you a therapist as an example, is their role is to create a safe space. See, I can already tell I'm going off topic because my mind just gets filled. Okay, so I can see already I'm going to go over because I'm already all over. Okay, so let's define a safe container. For me, that would be somewhere where my truth is allowed. I'm not censored. Somewhere where I'm allowed to disagree, and somewhere where my dignity is protected. That no matter what I say and what I share, I'm not invalidated and put down or gaslit, etc. Now, an unsafe container, therapist, community, would be where, and this has been my experience that has put me on these podcasts, is where they demand agreement. They may not say that to you, and they won't say that to you, but if you don't agree, there will be retaliation, there will be judgment, you will be excluded, you will be scapegoated, you'll be gossiped about, you'll be maligned, etc., etc., etc. So, if you are in a place where you know that you have to agree with them, you know you're under power, control, the matrix, and a cult. The other thing that you know you're not safe is when they start to gaslight you and make you think that what you've seen and what you've heard there in the community or the person is not accurate. And they want you to question your own reality, your own experience. And these communities are experts because they have numbers of people around them that don't call them out on their BS. So they get away with gaslighting their initiates, their students, etc. The third way is they will punish you for your independent thinking, for your independent actions, and they will notice very clearly that you have your own respect for yourself and for, is this working? Respect for yourself. Hello, hello, hello. Hold it 1 second. Okay, let's see what's going on here. Is this going to work? No, this is not working. Sorry to interrupt. Okay, let's do this. And let's do this. Okay, so we'll do it without that. So going back to the negative, not safe spaces. They will demand that you agree. They will gaslight you if they sense that you have your own mind. And the last thing they will do is punish you for your independent thinking, for your independent actions, and they will know. Communities, the authorities in communities that are cultish and into power and control will identify you long before you even know that you're being watched. And they will pit people against you. They will gossip, and they will set you up in front of certain people as the villain, like watch out for her, when really we should be watching out for them. So beware of these communities. And again, my specialty, because of where I've been for the last 45 years, is spiritual communities that really abuse their powers. They claim sacred spaces. If you hang around long enough, they will know all your business, but they won't honor it. They won't value it. They won't keep it confidential. They will use it as a means to come against you if you are too much of a leader, a self-leader. The people who are easily, what's the word, are followers, people who just follow. They're not even watching those people, like they're no threat. They just know whatever we say, these people are going to follow. When you get into a community, it's not long before you find out who the followers are. The people who are just hanging out forever in this community have no life of their own, have nothing else going on outside in their lives, no other friends, they have no other interests, they're not making their dreams come true, they're just hanging out. And there's some really sweet people in the middle of that population, but also not really proactive in the world. those of us who are very proactive in the world, very active in the world, are not just focused on this community. We have other interests. We have other dreams to make come true. And quite honestly, these places want followers. They say that they're there to increase your, increase your self-esteem. They want you to be bold, and they want you to go out in the world and do this, that, and the other. But when it comes down to it, if you even dare start to do that, all eyes are on you and you become a threat. I have a license plate that I've been wanting to make devoted to a particular community. And it says, I'm trademarking this right now, be big, bold, and beautiful. And in parentheses, but don't dare do it here. That's going to be my license plate. Be big, bold, and beautiful, parentheses, but don't dare do it here. Meaning, we'll teach you some tools to be big, bold, and beautiful, but don't even try it in this community, because there's 3 people in charge who are insecure, empty, and are into power and control, and they don't want anyone around them who is bright and brilliant, full of ideas, is bubbly and outgoing, and it just makes them look who they really are. Boring, controlling, nasty. You know where I'm going with this. And then a couple might want to try to, well, the words coming out is humiliate you. That happens too, but they'll try to copy you. If you really stand out in a crowd and you have some narcissists around you who are in power and have no sense of themselves, no vision, no nothing. All they know is power and control and counting money. They will try to imitate you, and people will notice it. People will come to you and say, boy, he does that just like you used to do that. And I had an ex who did that. I have a community that does that. After a while, you get used to it. But going back to the container, only you can hold for yourself, ultimately. And I had a couple examples of therapists that I had. One of the challenges, well, maybe it was on purpose, I've always wanted a really great therapist, but I really couldn't afford them. I mean, they're really high priced. So if I went through my insurance, I still wouldn't get the best. So I would get interns. They would give us interns, meaning they're coming through for 6 months, the most a year. They're training and they're practicing on you. The problem with that for me is they were young and I'm older and I have life experiences of the kazoo. So when I would sit in front of them and I want to dive deep and go right for the meaty subjects where I'm challenged and want to expand, one, they don't have the life experience to even understand what I'm saying. 2, they're not even seasoned yet in their tools. And 3, I've pushed their buttons sometimes because they still hadn't done their own inner work. They're in graduate school. They're getting their degrees. So that's the challenge of not having good therapists. For me, I think now looking back, I think Spirit, Source, had it on purpose for me because I was to learn on my own so I could sit before you. That I had to learn all this myself with the grit and gripping. So it would be non-theoretical, that I'd be talking to you from experience. And what really saved me in these journeys that I've had is somewhere along the line, unconsciously, I didn't do it deliberately, I was creating my own container to hold for myself because I really had nobody else to talk to. And the situations I was finding myself in were not shallow. They were really, really deep and required deep inner work. So I just somehow just year after year after year added another layer of protection and a more solid container where I could observe my process, not react to it, but observe it, but then go process it by myself, which only I can create the safe place. I didn't have to censor myself. I could do the ugly cry, and always, 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 you cannot do this unless Source, God, Spirit, Jesus Christ, Archangel Michael, whoever you go to in the invisible needs to be invited into the space to keep you safe, psychically, psychologically, but mostly psychically, to protect you from, any kind of negative energy. So the message for today is start to think about creating your own container for yourself where you are your own therapist, that you know how to step out of the circumstances. Don't dissociate. Don't ignore it. Don't avoid it. Mostly don't dissociate and split off. Stay in it, but also transfer a part of your consciousness to an observer position so that you can really look at what you're feeling, what you're thinking, what potential action you may take, what potential action you are getting not to take. So I'll just give you some examples of therapists that are not safe. And my goal for this was really about the toxic communities, but I'm getting to share with you a couple of experiences I've had with therapists. One was, it was a man, and he was seasoned, licensed. I was recommended to him. And it was West LA, and he's sitting across from me, and we're talking. I had a couple of incidents with him where he just didn't get it. He just didn't get me. He didn't get it. But this particular one was he was sitting across from me. I'm sitting here. And he was doing a closed eye process where I had to close my eyes, which I'm used to, and visualize whatever journey he was taking me through. So I really trust is the word. They need to establish trust with you. And once a therapist violates that trust, we may stay there longer than we need to. But once that trust is violated, you're not safe. And you have to watch. I don't care if they're $500 an hour. If they violate your trust, they are not safe for you. And there's different ways they do it. So I'm going back to this guy. So he's sitting across from me. We're doing a closed eye process. And I'm listening to him and listening to him. And then there was a point where it was just for me to just stay with myself for a few minutes and process whatever I was supposed to do. So, and then to open my eyes so he'd know that I was done. So I'm doing the process silently, thinking he's across from me and I'm here. And then I open my eyes and he is on his knees right here in my shoulder. He's no longer in the chair. He's here, literally right here. And I remember turning around like, what? It scared me at first, you feel shadows beside you. It was so totally inappropriate. I never saw him again. What was he doing kind of in the dark because he knows my eyes are closed? I'm trusting him to do this process. What is he doing on his knees right next to me? I don't remember questioning it, but I don't think I returned him. It was like the second thing that was inappropriate. And I saw him at another seminar at someone's house. It was someone was doing a seminar at their house. And he was there I knew he saw me, I saw him, and I just ignored him. And later on in the conversation, some of us hung out later, and no one would know I knew him. And there was some talk about him, that he was potentially losing his license, that he was involved with a patient inappropriately in a relationship, and that his license was being questioned. And so it was kind of a confirmation for me that didn't come in for a couple of years, that there was something off about this person. So that is not a safe container. What was he doing in my face while my eyes are closed? So that's kind of one example. Then a second example, I was with a female. Why was I with her? Okay, I'm remembering why. And she was African American. She was brilliant. And I'm sitting across from her, and there were two things that were going on with her. One was, I was doing good with her. I don't know how to explain the second thing to you, but I don't have words for it, but I know it was an unsafe. Something happened that became unsafe for me. And instead of me growing and expanding, I got to the place where I was seeing her twice a week. I was getting more anxious with her. I was not progressing in any way, but I interpreted it as I need more help. So I was going to her twice a week, and I'm getting worse. And I'm interpreting it as my problem. I didn't understand that she couldn't go any further with me. I had reached her consciousness limit. I have the words now, but I didn't have it then. So because she was containing me in a small thing and I'm ready to move out, I'm having anxiety about that. So ultimately, I did leave her, and I went to someone else in Woodland Hills. And as soon as I met with this person, the box just burst open, because this woman had a much bigger container for me. And again, I'm putting words on things I didn't understand then, but you know when something's not right. The other thing that this woman did is I was very involved with jazz music, musicians, etc., and I was dating someone, and it came up in the therapy. And I did share enough to say that he was African American, and that there was a challenge in that. And so, we're going on. And one day, now in LA, the music business in the clubs can be very small. If you hang out long enough, which I did because I was learning to sing, you kind of get to know the musicians, and you see them in all the clubs, over and over and over again. And you just know who people are, to the point where they become your little tribe. It's really wonderful. I loved it. So, so I'm talking to her one day, and she says to me, "What's his name?" So I'm going to take my therapist, who I've been sharing about this guy, who happens to be African American, and she was too. She knew I was in the jazz arena and learning to sing and going to the clubs. And one day she asks me, "What is his name?" Now, as I tell you that, it pisses me off. Do you think I'm that stupid that I'm going to tell you their name? Do you think I don't know that you are pumping me because potentially she might have known him? And to take it one more step, this person was such a player that she might have been seeing him and wanted to know if it was the same guy. And I have to tell you, potentially it could have been if she hung out in the music scene. That is a violation of confidentiality. That is going too far. Folks, don't give names in therapy. In this assisted living that I'm in, I have tried to get a therapist. And right away, they want to know the name of the facility. And I don't tell them anymore. It's like it's none of their business where I'm at, unless we're putting in an abuse report, which I've had to do. But you don't have to give names. Don't give names. You don't know what their agenda is. You can say my sister, my brother, my aunt, my uncle, my teacher, whatever. But that was nerve of her. That was inappropriate. And that was a violation. And I knew it immediately. I didn't have the word level, but it wasn't soon after that and a couple other things that when she was holding this tight container and I couldn't expand. And I'm asking for 2 sessions a week, thinking it's me. So between asking me who I was dating, the name, and I had maxed out. Now, because there was a racial difference, I could have maxed out not necessarily on her consciousness. There could have been a racial thing going on, which again, I don't know what the word level is, but I was aware enough to know the potential that that could have been interfering. I was fully open and I had a trust level. I'm not really concerned about ethnics. I just am multicultural somehow, but I forget that other people don't have that. So I could have been triggering her in my sharings. And in that, she may have shut down consciously or unconsciously. But all I know is I couldn't grow anymore. And once I got away from her, it was like, I could breathe again. I didn't need 2 sessions a week. And this person was much more expansive. So I got the guy's therapist like my face during the closed eye process. Then I have her asking me the name of who I'm dating. Plus, she's not able to expand with me. These are not safe containers. And the challenge with us and therapists is we naturally put them on a pedestal. And I don't mean that we adore them, but we expect a licensed professional that knows more than us, can handle our responses or our sharings professionally, and they know that. We go to them with that trust. So if they have a little dagger that comes out subconsciously or consciously, or there's a gaslighting, or you really can't express fully and you feel that cap on you, I know people who've hung in for therapists for years and years and years, the same therapist, twice a week, 3 times a week. They're paying for their house, they're paying for their car, they're paying for their children's college graduation, and they never leave. They don't even check out another person. And personally, I can't help but think that this therapist that they stay with for year after year after year is just spinning them and recycling them in the same issues over and over and over. And I was watching someone in an assisted living with me who was seeing someone like that. And she was just getting worse and worse and worse. And so I'd ask her, like, not to break confidentiality, like, well, what do you talk about? And they talked about the same story over and over and over in every single session that happened years ago. She wasn't moving forward. And, it's not my business to interfere. So I had a third example, but those were the 3. Okay, so you get immature interns that have no life experience. They don't really have the tools. They're not seasoned. You could potentially push their buttons. It would be called countertransference, where if you push a therapist's buttons, they will transfer their issues onto the client. Countertransference. It's usually the patient who transfers their stuff onto the therapist in a container to heal it. But the therapist is supposedly trained to take on that transference and not take it personally, not get their buttons pushed. But if they cannot contain that observership without it being triggered, if the patient triggers the therapist will then start transferring onto the patient, which is a demonstration they are not skilled yet enough to handle you or whatever it is that you want to talk about. So if you have a therapist who starts coming at you and attacking you, and it could be very, very subtle and insidious. I do have another example. I'll have to think about that one more. Oh gosh, this was a good one. This is really a dangerous one, but I would have to think it out first. Let me just think if I can get it. Oh man. Well, I don't like to share things I don't have the moral story, but I'll share a little bit. I was in a group once, and I always sought out this help. You know, I was always looking to grow and move on. I was on a quick track, fast track. It was a group, and it was very problematic for me because people walked in and out in the middle of the session. They'd come in, they'd share, they'd leave. You know, it was at a very famous hospital, and they had a psych extension. And I saw many a celebrity there getting therapy. Anyway, there was this guy who was a little weaker in his countenance, in his expression of the truth. And I don't remember how this really went, but the person who was leading the group at some point took him aside. See, I wasn't there. She bullied him and made him wrong about something. And he buckled under that. I remember him sharing it with me, and I knew her personality. I'd been in the group with her for a while. And I knew her tendencies. She didn't try it with me, but I knew where she could go, but I didn't know for sure. I don't have the facts on this, guys. I'm not remembering. But anyway, she did bully him, and he buckled, and he thought he was the problem. And he couldn't see that she attacked him and gaslit him. And she took advantage of her power as a therapist and was inappropriate with him. So not every therapist is safe. Not every therapist is seasoned. Even a 60, 70-year-old therapist may not know what they're doing. So when you have your own container, you know, and you are taking care of yourself, and you know what you need, and you know what you need to express, and then you're in front of someone who's supposedly a professional, you will pick up quicker that they are not for you. It's not a good fit, and you will move on. Now, if you are not doing somewhat of your own inner work, and if you haven't already learned with a therapist or on your own to claim your own inner power, you're honoring your own inner reality. I remembered it. Okay, you will not catch that they're not the right one for you. Okay, I got the third one. I knew there was one that was much more potent. Okay. You know, sometimes I tell myself these stories so deeply, I'm sure I shared it, but I didn't. So we're into 20 minutes already. I'm watching. Okay, so this was, I'd never seen a psychiatrist. Why did I go to her? I don't know. Oh, because I thought I needed some kind of, something to sleep. You know, I was anxious at bedtime because of what was going on, actually in my teaching career. And so I met her at a club. She was the wife of one of the musicians. So we're sitting at the table together. We happened to be talking. And she said she was a psychiatrist. She just heard me sing and she was complimenting me. And I said, do you take insurance? Because a lot of them don't. And she said, yes. I said, would you consider working with me? She said, sure. So I went, and, it was pretty solid for a minute, but she had a lot of patients at a nearby gigantic hospital. So actually, she would get phone calls in our session. That's number one. Red flag number one. When they're taking phone calls, other than an out-of-the-blue emergency phone calls, she's taking phone calls because people are calling. When I questioned it, she said she gets a lot of calls because people need medication. But see, she didn't set aside a time to pick up her messages, which could have been between me and the next patient. So that was red flag number one. Second, I needed physical therapy at the time. Oh, I know. I had a malpractice hip surgery. And I was really upset about that. My legs came out lopsided till this day. I'm on a walker because of it. Hold it. And so I must have something I'm blocking in my throat. Hold on 1 second. She says to me, because I didn't want to go back to the surgeon because he wouldn't fix it and he was denying that he had done any damage. And so I was without a surgeon, but I needed physical therapy. So she said, well, I'm an MD, which I forgot. And she said, I can give you a prescription for physical therapy for your hips and your legs. And I said, great. I said, let me figure out where I want to go, whatever. Okay. So I come back to her the next week and I said, you know what? I found a place. I'll take you up on your offer for a prescription for physical therapy. And she did this 180 on me, as if she never said it. And she says, well, I can't really give you a prescription for physical therapy. It's not my place to do that. She just did a 180 on me. And I'm sitting there going, what just happened? She just told me the week before and volunteered it. I didn't ask her. And now she's doing a 180 on me. So I knew something wasn't right. I didn't push it. I didn't, I don't like conflict up until recently. Now I relish it. But back then I was in that not wanting conflict stage. And so I knew I had to consider what was going on. That night, I had a dream. It was when you have a vivid dream, trust it. This was vivid. I somehow was in her bedroom, but I was observing, and she wakes up, gets out of bed, puts her feet on the side of the bed, and down on her, what is that? The side stand where you put the lamp. I can't think of it. There was a joint. And she proceeds to pick up the joint from the ashtray and starts puffing. Then the dream was over. And I knew she was high. I think she was often high in my sessions, but it never was obvious until she offered one thing and then retracted it as if she never said it. And plus she's getting all these phone calls, plus she's stressed out. So again, not a safe container. She's coming in high and she's not consistent. But that dream was just such a blessing because it just validated, my intuition, something is not right here. And Spirit just said, yeah, let me lay it out for you. She's high. And she could have been high a good portion of the time. So you get the gist of therapists that are not safe containers. And she was getting paid the big bucks. My insurance was covering her. And she was seasoned. But a lot of people, when they're stressed out or they have too much pressure, they can't hold for themselves, so they do use substances. And so again, I'm going between therapists and you being your own therapist is practice when something comes up, and we can create like a sanctuary together at some point, but just the concept of what would it take for you to step out of yourself. It's all done in the mind, and not react to the situation. And often a response isn't even needed. And you go to that place where you work it out with yourself. I don't have a lot of words for this. I just know that I do it intuitively. And once you really are practiced at that, and sometimes it's not even conscious. Sometimes I just go into it. And I know I have a safe space for myself. And it gets safer and safer and safer as I trust and trust and trust myself. And the way I can trust and trust myself is because I continue to do the inner work, call myself out on challenges, any buttons that have been pushed, where I'm not optimally being effective. So, my other podcasts talk about this in more length, but too long, is wanting to create an inner sovereignty with yourself, where you establish, I know what I wrote down. I did write it down for you. Where you define your own reality, not other people's opinions, not what other people are saying, but you know that you know that you know where you stand in situations. And so no matter what comes at you, even if it pushes your buttons, you still know, that doesn't feel right. That is not what I know to be true about me. So you need that inner first. And then you create this container for yourself where you can actually be your own therapist. And once you have that, and a big theme of mine has been, can you stand alone when everything gets pulled out from under you? To what extent can you stand alone when things get pulled out from under you? And one of the reasons I got stronger in that area is because I gave up on therapists. I just gave up. I just said, you know what, I'm going to have to do this myself. And that's when this almost subconscious, unconscious formation of a container happened. No one had said anything about me. I've still never heard it. But I think in psychology, they do talk about it. But I just made it up out of necessity. That's another subject we should talk about, is trust what source inside you tells you to create for yourself. The universe is infinite. Not everything has been discovered already. There's always room for more and more and more discoveries and expansion. You might be the next Freud. You might be the next Jung. You might be the next something that creates something that nobody knows about yet. Only because you trusted yourself and your experience, where hey, there's nothing outside me that can do this for me, and I have to create it myself. So in this podcast, I'm just focusing on creating your own container, being your own therapist, that you can step out of yourself and just observe and do anything you want in this container, whether it's the ugly cry, the ugly tears, whether you have to scream at a pillow or, go into your car. I know a couple of my friends, they said they would go in the car and just scream. Married people with kids and a husband, where they just had to get out of the house and just go in the car and scream. And to make this okay, we're human beings, we have emotions, we have thoughts, and they need to be tended to. We can't just ignore them. And if you follow my podcasts, I'm referring you to the concept of that we're in charge of our spirits, we're in charge of our emotions, we're in charge of the mind. I'll say this: spirit, mind, emotions, and the body. And that we're not a blob. And we can't walk around unconscious, bumping into everyone and everything and not knowing what's going on. It's up to us to master each of those levels. And that's when you start reading, you start praying, you start taking seminars, you go to classes. But ultimately, you are, and I wrote it backwards for me so you could see it, you are your best friend. You are your therapist. You are your husband if you're female. You are your wife if you're a man. If I'm a woman and I want the masculine point of view, I have that container that I can meet my masculine energy in and say, I need help in this situation. I don't know what action to take because I'm in the feminine. And I ask my male, the masculine in me, what action would you take in this situation? If I'm a man and I'm very attached to action in the world and getting results, and I'm not getting the results because I'm not bringing in any loving and any nurturing into the situation. So if I'm a man, I could go to my little container, big container, and call forward my feminine energy and say, I know I'm being really, really a bully here. I'm totally in my male energy. I want to win. I only want to take action, and I don't know how to process this. And you ask your feminine to come forward and let it speak to you and bring forward maybe a softer opinion, a more gentle approach, which you can then take from the container and bring it to life in your reality. So we are so powerful by ourselves. And there are people in our lives, there are communities in our lives, there are doctors, practitioners that would like us to think that we need them. And it's wonderful to have a great mentor or doctor or community that is safe and solid and is seasoned in how to handle its clients, its patients, its students. But they can't always do that. And if I had known what I know now, of course, looking back in hindsight, I would have left situations sooner rather than hanging in, because I hadn't yet developed my own inner master. I hadn't developed the confidence in my own inner knowing. I didn't have the confidence that I could trust myself. I pretty much did trust myself since I was little because I needed to. But you need to get, when Spirit throws at you situations, as you grow, Spirit throws situations to you that are more advanced. So the situations I get today are much more advanced than when I was 20. Now I'm taking on full communities, full nursing facilities. It's no more like a one-on-one thing. And I trust myself. I trust my reality. And I've talked about this. If you are attached to a spouse or a community, my big issue is toxic, abusive communities. If you get attached to them, you will be blinded by what they might be doing. Because out of the loving for the teacher, out of devotion, the gratitude for the help that you're getting there, you will be blinded by certain inappropriate behaviors. Certain corruptions will go right over your head, or we go into denial because we really want to stay for a certain reason. So the more independent you get, the more self-reliant, as Emerson would say, the less people can pull the wool over your eyes. That's the bottom line. The more you trust yourself, the more work you do on yourself, people can no longer pull the wool over your eyes. And there are many people who have agendas out there because of their own egos, their own personality structure is fragmented, and they act out on the congregants, on the patient, on the client. And they haven't created a container. They don't have a tribe that is willing and able to call them out, particularly if someone is in a power position. They get away with so much because people are afraid to call them out. Now they see it, they observe it, they'll talk about it behind their backs, but they won't call it out. So going back to home base, maybe I got this down to 30 minutes, is to create your own container. And if we go back to my other podcasts, we're talking about inner trust, inner validation, that you are the commander of your reality. You are the commander of your spaceship. You are the galactic commander of your spaceship. You don't need the Galactic Federation to come down and tell you what's going on. You can tell the Galactic Federation, those of you who know what I'm talking about, you can tell them what's going on. So you're in charge of your ship. You're in charge of your spaceship. You are totally in charge of your life. And if we really were taught that over and over and over again, authentically, not just an advertisement on a brochure for a retreat, where people really hold you up to be big, bold, and beautiful, like I said before, but they mean it and they welcome it. In fact, I did have, okay, I didn't write it here. Maybe I wrote it here. Well, it's another topic, but basically, and I'm being repetitive with a lot of things because I just have one theme going. The theme is our freedom, our sovereignty over ourselves, and to catch, divert ourselves, avoid people who abuse their power. It's going on in our lives. It's going on every day. It's going on politically. And you'll just get pushed and swayed every which way by the wind until you can hold your tree and until you plant those roots down in the ground. And the more roots you have in the ground, which is your inner work, the sturdier your tree is. And even though a tree does sway in the wind, not all of them, but some of them do sway, palm trees. I used to live on a street that had palm trees. Those trees would sway in the wind. And I had one right outside my window that, was like, this trunk was like this thick. But at the top, I could see it swaying and the leaves swaying, but it never swayed at the trunk of the base of the ground. It was solid. So another lesson from that is the more solid you are, the more deeply rooted you are in your own psychology. You can be swayed. Things will rock you. What's the song I'm learning? I'm learning an instrument. Something, something, rock you. We rock you. I'm learning this song on an instrument. So you can be rocked up there at the top in the wind, but you still have this strong trunk and these roots that cannot be unrooted. No one can give us that. And, another subject, when people say Jesus Christ is going to save me, you need to really look at that. Is that what God wants? Is that really the message? That just because we claim Jesus Christ as our Savior, then we don't have to do any work, and then the next day our life is going to change. No, we are the saviors. The message from Jesus was, you are the light. You will do as I have done. And he came as an example to show us the power we have as children of God. But he had a different mission, but that was the message, that we are the saviors of our own life. No one is coming to save us. And how many of us, have prayed, I don't do it anymore, for someone to come and save us, help us. So I direct all those pleas to source, to creation, no longer waiting for someone to save me in any way, shape, or form. And it's a belief system. It's an indoctrination that we get, that someone is going to come and save us. And women, I've shared this on a podcast. I never should have gotten married. I should have been becoming a CEO instead of taking care, instead of being mommy to my husband. I didn't have what I have now. I just went into two different topics. I don't know if you caught me, but I caught it. I just went in two different directions. So let me bring it back in. Let me hone it back in. No one is coming to save us. People may assist you. Someone may recognize your talent and come in and say, hey, I see what you're trying to do. I want to support you in some way. But you're already on your trail. You're going to go on your trail. You're going to do your mission, whether this person comes in or not, or these people come in or not. But that's different. You're not sitting there waiting, and kind of, when is someone going to come and get me? When is someone going to save me? That's where you need to take action. So in conclusion, I spun, is create a container. Pretend you don't have a therapist. If you don't have one, you really do need a container. And I just thought of another issue with another facilitator. The bottom line is, don't think that these licensed professionals are all that. Some of them are not. They're just not. And it's not a put down. It's just that you want the best of the best of the best. If you're giving yourself the best of the best of the best, then you want the best of the best of the best. And the more tuned in you are to yourself, the more you will see where someone is defaulting on their professionalism or defaulting on knowledge, which is not their fault. They just are not pursuing a deeper cut in their lives. A good example would be C.G. Jung. I used to work for the Jung Institute. These were not just therapists. They train for years. They do not release them until they do their inner work, that it's clear they've done their inner work, that it's clear that they can take on someone else's psyche. And I'm talking about 8, 9, 10 years of training, not 2 years of a California state license for a psychologist. It's demanded that they do their inner work, and they have to demonstrate that to someone who's more advanced. So, I would like one of those people. I should look into that. I haven't for a long time. So create your own container. If you're going for therapy, watch carefully. Are they really there for you? Are you spinning in circles, paying their bills? Or are they really moving you forward to the next step? And I guess I could even say everybody out there is coaching these days. All I see on Facebook is coach. Making 6 figures, making 7 figures. All they're focused on is how many clients, well, not even how many clients can they let go of to get the big clients. It's just like this crazy game. That's what I see on Facebook, is how much more money can you make coaching? And coaches are not necessarily licensed at all. Now, I haven't had one. Of course, I'd want the best, and that would be big bucks. But everybody's coaching. You know, I have this joke on Facebook. The coaches have coaches that have coaches. It's like a pyramid. You know, this one down here. Well, no, how would stop? This one has a coach. I forgot how I said it. It was so cool. It was just like everybody has a coach. There's like layers and layers of everybody's coaching everybody else. And I do wonder, like, is anybody coaching themselves? I don't know. But that's, Instagram, Facebook, all that kind of stuff. So anyway, the theme was create your own container. And we will do something more specific in the next podcast where we can go inside and create a really sanctuary. I can help you create a sanctuary, but it's not the same as a container. So the next time you freak out or react or are mad or angry at something in the world, step out, go into your little container, imagine it, and go in there and do whatever you have to do. Freak out, talk to yourself, cry, punch the pillows, create a bed in your little container. And it's not so much a physical container, it's a state of consciousness. It's not like you have to sit there and create this container. If I was having a conversation with you right now and something happened that disturbed me, I could immediately move into the consciousness of a container. I can quickly move into that state of being and hold for myself. It would be, can you hold for yourself and not need anybody else? Something just fell. So, God bless you. I think it's a little shorter. Good night, and I'm going to put the topic, making your own container. Okay.